this subject called cortisol and how cortisol is made from the outside of the adrenal gland. This is adrenal gland. You have two of them on top of the kidney. They look like this. So the outside of this is all gland tissue and cortisol is made by the outer part of that gland. There, inside of the gland is all of tissue. It makes neurotransmitters or hormone-like substances that are hormone-like because they travel communication-wise through the nervous system where hormones travel through the blood does the differentiation. So, of course, all is made by the outside and the inside would be all the adrenaline. Okay. So adrenaline is a stress hormone to right course all there, stress hormone. So the thing is like, a lot of people are stressed out and they seem to not be able to get rid of stress. They can't seem to turn off cortisol. And that's primarily because the adrenal gland only has an on switch. See, cortisol is a hormone that reacts to stress and adapts the body to stress states. Okay, and the same thing with adrenaline, it reacts to stress and it adapts their body to stress states. So if you've been chased by a tiger, for example, you can have the heart rate go up. You're going to have the blood flow to your muscles. You're going to have a very awake brain excessively, you know where, and then you're going to have a higher blood pressure. You're going to have more adrenaline. You can have all these different things but you're not going to have as much digestion or reproduction. So it's going to turn those things off. But what happens over time and a lot of people don't know. This is that when they experience stress over their life, they think, when they go through it, then the stress just goes away. No, all stress is accumulative. I have a machine that measures accumulating stress and you can see in a body, the huge relationship between the quantity of stress and then in present time, their body is stock up on and will not turn off because the adrenal only has an on switch. It doesn't have an off switch. Okay, so all stress accumulates and it's also interesting to note that, and I'm going to just tell you, it's probably 100% might be 99% of time. But nearly 100% of the time, you take autoimmune cases, like rheumatoid, and MS and lupus and all these different autoimmune diseases. It always happens after a stress event, primarily a loss, or some threat of loss, or divorce or whatever. Why is that? Because a loss is a severe stress to the adrenal. It shocks the body even more than a physical stress and the bird person can be stuck in it for years. As far as the physical body gets stuck in it, and then, you're over here, but your body's still reacting down there and then they turns on as autoimmune thing. So, that's interesting. So we have this thing where we have the adrenals that get stuck on over time because if accumulated stress can be measured objectively, you can feel it subjectively just on how well you tolerate stress and how you deal with stress. If can't tolerate stress and things get to you easily, irritate you easily, then we know the adrenal glands are on edge. Now, there's a term for this called flight or fight mode. So when you're flight or fight, you're in this mode, where you're constantly either fighting or running away, something. It's like it's a stress state. So the flight or flight can be measured as well, and I can measure that on a test and you can see how much flight or fight the person's in versus if it's normal or they're stuck in flight or fight. And a lot of people are stuck in this flight or fight from past stresses. Okay, and these stresses could be, change of hormones, menopause. It could be physical stress, mental stress, could be any type of stress at all. So that's really what's happening, is that we have this hormone that's too high. This woman is too high because of the old stress that you don't see. I'm stuck in the past. So the job is tests and they can't find them because it's not showing up on a blood test, is not showing up on other tests, but it might be a blood pressure pulse rate, but you have to use a very sensitive test that picked this up. And I use a test that measures this part of the adrena. Let's call the autonomic nervous system. This is all sympathetic nerve fibers, so we can measure that on a test. That's called heart rate variability. Don't worry about the name, but it's just realize there is a test that can measure that. And when I look at people, I look at two things. One is how much stress that they have in their body, and to how much health or recovery reserve do they have as well, because it measures both parts, and I find that it's a relationship. When someone's usually in stress for a long period of time, they lose their health reserve, their recovery. They're reserved to back onto, because, if you lose your recovery, then a little bit of stress really can affect you badly. But if you have good recovery and your stress, it doesn't bother you as much, because you have this buffer to fall back on. So the question is, what do we do to turn this off? Okay, and now one of the things that I found, it's very difficult to do this with pills and things like that. What I found you have to do is you have to manually turn the adrenal glands off. Nobody in manually IQ adrenals are stuck way into the body. Well, there's techniques that basically work on other parts of this nervous system. Okay, it's called the sympathetic nervous system. And there is other parts of the nervous system that control the off switch. And that's called the parasympathetics. So that's another word. Person to the next means the part of the nervous system that turns things off because it controls digestion. So inevitably someone that's stressed using his problems with resting and digestion. So, if you look how the whole body and find out where these things are located, you can do techniques acupressure without needles or massage on these locations of where these things are located in the body and create an incredible relaxation effect that actually helps this part of the nervous system. So you're really working not on the land per se, but you're working on the nervous system. You're increasing the flow of this electrical wire that's connected to the brain. That won't turn off like a switch. So what I did is I listed a series of videos below in the link that you can click on to see some of the techniques. There's a lot of them, but I'm just going to show you a couple that you can apply on your nervous system to help turn off this cycle. Okay, so I want to just give you a taste of this below, but there's a lot more we're going to talk about in future videos, but I want to just explain some of the basics on what cortisol is and how it affects adrenals. And what's happening for people that are stuck in stress states. So I hope this helped, and I will see you in the next video. Well, it's that time of year where we actually are doing our keto challenge last year. It was very successful. And the question is, what is a keto challenge? Well, every single day for about a month of daily audio tips, insights, motivation, and just my guidance walking you through exactly how to do this. So that way, you can either get back on track or start fresh and get on your keto and intermittent fasting plan. So you can be a success story, and on top of that, there'll be 5 lucky people that will get $100 gift. If we get to shop on my cart to get their